that you have of that nose cone, of that fairing, and have them come back to Earth because we don't need them anymore. Now, the truss structure that you see on your screen there, that is referred to as our transporter erector. This is what we use not only to roll the rocket out of the hangar and to the pad and then to lift it up and support it in its vertical position, but is also what routes Falcon 9's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems all the way to the vehicle itself, and does so until Falcon 9 goes on internal power and launches and clears the pad. At that point, the vehicle's internal flight computer and automation and radio frequency communication is what's going to take over. Now, following successful deployment of the TESS spacecraft, this is going to be the 52nd Falcon 9 launch, the 24th Falcon 9 landing if we're successful today, and SpaceX's 8th launch this year. Operators began loading propellant on the Falcon 9 at T-minus 70 minutes. And Falcon 9 is powered by bipropellant engines. That is, they consume a fuel, which is RP1, and an oxidizer, which is liquid oxygen. Fuel is about 90% or so loaded on the rocket in on stage 1, and 75% loaded on stage 2. Oh, I'm sorry, actually RP1, the fuel is fully loaded on stage 1 and 2. And it's LOX that's about 90% loaded on stage 1 and 75% loaded on stage 2. Now, liquid oxygen is that super chilled oxidizer that we use inside of our ox tank. And coming up next, what we're going to hear on the call out is engine chill. This is where we flow a small amount of that liquid oxygen through to the engines in order to cool them down to their operating temperature, so that when we start feeding them their full flow of liquid oxygen in flight, that LOX stays nice and cold and doesn't heat up and start to boil off and cause bubbles and other performance issues on the engines. Listening in on the weather nets, it's sounding like we are looking good for an on-time launch today. I'm not hearing about any issues with upper-level clouds. Our ground-level winds are looking within limits, as are those upper-level winds, and we're within our lightning rules. Spacecraft is currently healthy, it's on internal power, and the range is currently go for an on-time launch today. So today's mission is really, really cool. We are launching NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS. This is a mission that's operated by MIT, managed by NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and is the second launch that SpaceX has conducted for NASA's Launch Services Program. And at just 365 kilograms and just under 5 feet tall, TESS may be small, but it is doing big things. This Planet Hunter is an orbital observatory that will discover thousands of planets by monitoring over 200,000 stars in nearby planet systems, or star systems. Its science instrument is comprised of 4 high-tech, wide field of view cameras designed and manufactured by MIT's Lincoln Laboratory. These cameras will allow TESS to detect exoplanets, which are planets that are outside of our solar system. It does this by looking for a phenomenon known as a transit. This is where a planet passes in front of its host star, causing a periodic dip in that star's brightness. This allows scientists to assess the size, mass, atmospheric composition, and structure of those planets. And this is particularly exciting to astrophysicists and astrobiologists because some of those planets may fall into what is referred to as the habitable zone. That means it might have the right conditions to sustain liquid water and potentially support life. Falcon 9 will be injecting TESS into an elliptical high Earth orbit that at its highest point reaches 273,000 kilometers. That's over 2/3 of the way to our moon. After TESS separates from Falcon 9 over the next 60 days, the spacecraft will use its onboard thrusters to perform a series of maneuvers, which includes a flyby of the moon in order to slingshot it into its final high Earth science orbit. This orbit is what's going to give TESS an unobstructed view of the night sky, allowing the spacecraft to observe and catalog thousands of exoplanets for future studies by the James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope, and large ground-based observatories.
Internal sequences have started.
All right, we are about 4 minutes and 45 seconds away from liftoff. So let's check in on the rocket one more time before stepping into the terminal count. Fuel is fully loaded on both stages, and liquid oxygen is being topped off right now as we speak. The rocket is also now pressurizing itself with helium gas. We use that gas in order to maintain the structural strength of the rocket while on the ground and in flight. And very soon what you're going to see is those cradle arms that are holding the rocket. They're going to open up, and the transporter erector is going to lean back slightly. It's going to retract. You also might see some venting coming from the side of from the TE. That's totally normal. It's just liquid oxygen that's boiling.
Cargo bleed verification. Stage 1 lock cell complete. Stage 2 dump manifold secured. Stage 2 lock slow complete. Falcon 9 is on internal power. Vehicles in self-line.
Ground gas closeouts is starting.
TESS is ready for launch.
Falcon 9's in startup.
Ground gas closeouts is complete.
Stage 2 pressing for flight.
LD go for launch.
Stage 1 is at startup pressures.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
saw, Falcon 9 has successfully cleared the pad and is now on its ascent with the TESS spacecraft in its fairing. Now, coming up in about 15 minutes, you're going to hear the call out that Falcon 9 will have hit max Q. That stands for maximum aerodynamic pressure. That is the point at which the rocket is seeing its highest stresses on its ascent.
Vehicle has passed maximum aerodynamic pressure.